From the annals of ancient Greece, a name echoes through time. Thermopylae. A place of myth, of sacrifice, of an impossible stand. But what truly happened in that desolate mountain pass? What drew these warriors, barely a handful, to face an empire? The answers are shrouded in the mists of history, yet the echoes of their courage persist. A riddle. A legacy. A final, desperate choice. We peel back the layers, seeking the truth behind the legend, revealing the heart of the Spartan warrior. Centuries ago, ancient Greece was a patchwork of city-states, fiercely independent, yet vulnerable. Then, a shadow loomed from the east. The Persian Empire. Vast. Unstoppable. Its golden king, Xerxes, commanded an army of unprecedented scale, seeking to bring the entire Hellenic world under his heel. But Greece would not yield so easily. Whispers of defiance grew, a quiet resolve against an overwhelming tide. A clash of civilizations. A struggle for freedom itself. What hope could a scattered land truly harbor? Among the Greek city-states, one stood apart. Sparta. A society forged in the crucible of war, where every man was a warrior, every woman, the mother of warriors. From birth, their lives were dedicated to the state, to discipline, to combat. Their armor, their shields, their spears, extensions of an unyielding will. This was not merely a military force, it was a way of life. A code of honor. An absolute devotion to duty. But how would this singular focus fare against an enemy numbering in the hundreds of thousands? At the heart of Sparta was its king, Leonidas. Not just a ruler, but a warrior king, descendant of Heracles. When the call to arms came, it was he who would lead. His choice, his burden. To face the Persian tide, not with the full might of Greece, but with a symbolic force. A calculated risk? Or a desperate gamble? What visions haunted his thoughts as he contemplated the fate of his people, the future of Greece? The weight of expectation. The shadow of prophecy. His destiny was intertwined with the destiny of his city. And so, the number was set. 300. Just 300 Spartan warriors. An impossibly small contingent. Why such a meager force against Xerxes' vast army? Was it hubris? A spiritual necessity? Or a tactical genius misunderstood by history? They marched, not in triumph, but towards an almost certain doom. A defiant gesture. A final warning. What did these 300 know that the rest of Greece did not? What secret pact was forged in the Spartan spirit? Their journey led them north, towards a place known as Thermopylae, the Hot Gates. A name that evokes both geology and destiny. They marched under the blazing Greek sun, their bronze helmets glinting, their heavy shields echoing their resolve. Each step a commitment. Each mile a deeper plunge into the unknown. What conversations passed between them? What quiet fears, what unshakable resolve? They moved not as men, but as an extension of Sparta itself, carrying its fierce heart to the very edge of the world. Thermopylae. Not just a name, but a geological marvel. A narrow mountain pass, barely wide enough for a few men abreast, flanked by sheer cliffs on one side and the Aegean Sea on the other. It was a natural choke point. A bottleneck. The perfect place for a small force to hold back a larger one. But could even this formidable terrain truly halt the boundless might of Xerxes' army? It seemed a defiant challenge laid bare, a gauntlet thrown before the Persian king. A strategic masterstroke, or a desperate last resort? Opposite the Greek defenders, the Persian army stretched for miles. A human tide. A colossus. Xerxes, the great king, watched from his throne, confident in his overwhelming numbers. Immortals, cavalry, archers, a multitude of cultures and weapons, all united under his banner. This was a force designed to crush, to obliterate, to leave no doubt of Persian dominance. He sent envoys. Demanded surrender. But what could a king accustomed to absolute power possibly understand of Spartan defiance? His empire had never known refusal. Days passed. A tense stillness settled over the pass. Xerxes waited, perhaps expecting the Greeks to scatter. But the Spartans held their ground. Unmoving. Unyielding. A silent challenge. This was more than a military confrontation, it was a battle of wills. The psychological warfare had begun long before the first spear was thrown. What thoughts consumed Leonidas during these silent hours? What final preparations were made? The air crackled with anticipation, pregnant with the promise of unimaginable violence. Finally, the order came. The Persian advance. Waves of soldiers, crashing against the Spartan line. But the narrow pass negated their numerical advantage. Spartan warriors, protected by their bronze helmets and massive shields, formed an impenetrable phalanx. Spears extended, a bristling hedge of death. The sound of bronze on bronze. The clash of steel. This was close-quarters combat, brutal and relentless. How could so few withstand such an onslaught, hour after hour, day after day? Their training, their code, became their very survival. King Leonidas was not just a commander, he was a warrior in the thick of the fight. His presence, his roar, inspired his men. He moved among them, a symbol of their unwavering resolve. The Persians, despite their numbers, could not break the line. Frustration mounted for Xerxes. How could a mere 300 Spartans, and their Greek allies, defy his empire for so long? The world held its breath. A few hundred men, a single king, stood as the final bulwark against tyranny. But how long could sheer will sustain them? But history often turns on a single, unforeseen detail. A path. A secret mountain trail, known only to a few locals. A shepherd, driven by greed or fear, revealed this clandestine route to Xerxes. A way to bypass the unyielding Spartan defense. A betrayal. The beginning of the end. What twisted fate led to this moment? A weakness in the seemingly impregnable fortress. An Achilles heel, discovered at the most critical hour. The game had changed, irrevocably. The tide was about to turn, but not in favor of Greece. Word reached Leonidas, the Persians were flanking them. The trap was sprung. The narrow pass, once their greatest asset, was now a cage. An impossible situation. Retreat was still an option for the Greek allies, but for the Spartans, for Leonidas, there was only one path. A path dictated by their code, by their very identity. What grim calculus passed through the king's mind? The ultimate sacrifice, now a stark reality. The final act was upon them, inevitable and tragic. Leonidas made his choice. A decision that would echo for millennia. He ordered the allied Greek forces to retreat, to save themselves, to fight another day. But for the 300 Spartans, and a few loyal others, the order was to stay. To stand. To fight to the last breath. It was a strategic sacrifice. A defiant declaration. What courage, what conviction must it take to consciously choose such a fate? To face oblivion, knowing it would become immortality. Their names would be remembered, their defiance a beacon. As a dramatic sunrise painted the eastern sky, bathing the battlefield in an eerie, golden light, the Spartans prepared. This was their last dawn. Their final moments. The Persian army, now attacking from both front and rear, closed in. The air, heavy with the scent of fear and bronze, awaited the inevitable. What prayers, what oaths, were whispered in those last moments? A profound sense of impending doom, yet also a fierce pride. The stage was set for an epic, slow-motion battle that would redefine heroism. And then, the final charge. The 300 Spartans, with Leonidas at their head, launched themselves into the overwhelming Persian tide. No thought of surrender. No hope of victory. Only defiance. Only duty. Spears shattered. Shields splintered. Bronze helmets gleamed one last time in the sun. This was not a battle for survival, but for meaning. A slow-motion ballet of death, where every blow, every fall, resonated with the weight of history. The narrow mountain pass became a tomb and a monument. What ultimate price was paid for their legacy? When the dust settled, only silence remained. The pass was littered with the fallen, both Greek and Persian. The 300 were gone. But their sacrifice was not in vain. It bought time for Greece. It ignited a fire of unity and resistance that would ultimately defeat Xerxes. Their last stand at Thermopylae became a symbol. A legend. A timeless testament to courage against insurmountable odds. What force, unseen and profound, drove these men to such an extreme act of defiance? The answer lies not just in history, but in the human spirit itself. Thermopylae. The 300 Spartans. King Leonidas. Names etched into the very fabric of human history. Their story, retold countless times, continues to inspire. It speaks of freedom, of sacrifice, of the power of a few to stand against many. The narrow mountain pass witnessed not just a battle, but a moment when destiny hung in the balance. A dramatic sunrise over a cinematic war, ancient ruins whispering tales of bronze helmets and fierce hearts. What secrets does Thermopylae still hold? What lessons can we still learn from their last stand?